Now, some people may have read the title of this video and think that I'm completely insane, but I guarantee you that this is not a joke. I actually am going to be cutting up all of my credit cards, even though I have an 800 credit score. Well, it may not be exactly an 800 credit score, but it is pretty high, above 780. And there are quite a few good reasons why I decided to make the decisions to cut up all of my credit cards, and a few of them may surprise you. But the way I want to lay this video out is in steps of factors that led me to think that credit cards in particular were not in my best interest for my financial future. Even if you think that as a responsible person that you're paying your credit card off every single month, that you are doing the right thing with keeping your credit cards active, some of these reasons may lead you on the same track that I am to getting out of debt and not using debt altogether. So if you think you find any kind of value in this video, then go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for your boy. But to get into the first reason, having a credit card in general, I believe discourages self-control. One of the main things that credit, or a credit loan balance, or a credit limit I should say, gives you is a false sense of security with how much money that you actually have. You may have only $100 in your bank account, but if your credit card says you have a spending limit of $10,000, then you may falsely assume that, hey, I have $10,000 left to spend, and if I don't pay it off in this next month, I can at least afford the minimum payment because of my paycheck. And having this mentality of always having access to a credit limit instead of only using the money in your bank account leads you to spending excessively in many cases, causing you to become your own worst enemy financially and leading you down a long and dark road of debt and interest payments. And as we get on to the interest payments, that is actually reason number two, because interest on credit cards is extremely expensive. Credit cards have some, if not the absolute highest interest payments I've ever seen in my life. If someone was to walk up to you and say, hey, I'm going to give you $100, but when you pay me back, I want $130 just for you have an opportunity to spend my money instead of your money. And when you're comparing credit card interest rates to some returns that you can get in the stock market or some returns that you get on any other investment strategies such as real estate or peer-to-peer lending, 30% will start to seem outrageously high in terms of what you're paying to a bank or a credit limit. Typically, a good return in the stock market on a year-over-year basis is 8%. And if you're paying 32% in credit card interest in 1 year, there is almost no way, unless you're taking some really risky investments, that you're going to be outperforming what you're paying on that credit balance in the stock market. But to get into a little bit more of a serious reason of why I decided to cut off my credit cards is because I realized that for all intents and purposes, a credit score is just a vanity number. Personally, it does not help you pay your bills on time. Responsible people can still have low scores, and people with high credit scores can still make some really dumb purchases. If we talk about the person with a low credit score, for example, this person can be extremely responsible, always pay their bills on time, but they may have never studied financial literacy, or nobody may have told them about financial literacy, so they decide to get their credit card and their first line of credit when they were 30 years old instead of when they were 18. And now because this person only has a few months worth of credit history, the banks and all lenders see them as a risky lender because they don't know enough about them in terms of how well they're able to repay their bills, because they haven't been tracked on that for their entire lives. However, a person who's had a credit card since they were 18 and may have always paid their bills on time but still overextends themselves financially so that they are not building wealth for their future may have a perfect credit score, because even though they're not falling behind on their payments, because they are giving all of their money to the credit lenders, they are seen as responsible. And what they want you to do when you have a credit score, or when you have even a high credit score, is to get even more credit. So this vanity number means nothing in the grand scheme of things of building wealth, because you don't need it if you don't actually use credit. And moving on to the next reason, I fully believe that a credit card in general encourages overspending, because when you have a credit card, it's just like saying, I don't have enough of my own money to spend right now, so I'm going to spend your money and more of your money than I normally would of my own money just because you offered it to me. And I think that credit cards encourage overspending by being purposely subtle about the amount of interest that they charge. Yes, they may send you statements, and yes, they may list it in the fine print, but if a credit card actually showed you every single month on the homepage, similar to what the Apple Card does, how much interest that they were paying on a month-to-month basis, then I guarantee you that more people will be less likely to use as much credit cards to fund their everyday living expenses than they are today without seeing that number right in front of them. And the crazy thing is that overspending now does not look as lavish as it did 10 or 20 years ago. 10 or 20 years ago, although I wasn't allowed to see it, if you spent $10,000, I'm sure that you will be able to get a fancy car or a nice vacation or even a down payment on a luxury house. But nowadays, $10,000 may get you a modest wedding. It may get you a 10-year-old used car, or it may get you a small family vacation. However, the purpose of nowadays is that $10,000 nowadays, when you spend it, is not life-changing. However, when you have that debt constantly burdening on you and you're paying it back slowly every single month, the interest payment on that amount of money exponentially increase because the balance balance increase as you are not paying it off. But the fifth reason why I decided to cut up my credit cards is that credit cards in itself can lead to bankruptcy. Now I know a lot of other factors can lead to bankruptcy, like having a lien taken off against you or someone suing you, but I believe that if you don't owe anyone money, then there is no reason why you should be bankrupt. And in cases where someone sues you and it's pretty much outside of your control, if you don't owe anyone any money in the first place, it will be much easier to meet those one-off obligations if something weird does happen in your life than it would be if you had already maxed out all your credit cards, or if you have a huge auto loan attached to your car, or a high mortgage that you're underwater on attached to your house. If you don't have any debt payments, you will be much more financially secure and you will be able to sleep better at night knowing that you are taken care of financially. And that leads directly to my seventh reason why I decided to cut out my credit cards, in that I feel that personally it gives me a little bit of peace of mind. I think that now that I'm actually using the money that's coming out of my bank account to fund my living expense and not deciding to borrow money from a creditor, it allows me to just know that I am in control of my financial future. There is not going to be any debt collectors calling me to try to get these credit cards paid off, and it has even motivated me to move to the next steps of paying my cards off and eventually being completely debt free by paying the house that we live in off. So moving to an all cash, no credit style budget, or financial diet if you will, is definitely a little bit of a culture shock because no one really teaches that you should actually do this. People teach all the time that you should open up a credit card for the travel reward points or the cash back, but in order to benefit from any of these rewards programs, you have to spend a lot of money. And the only way any of these companies are staying in business is because they are making money from the interest that you are paying. They are making money, and a lot of it at that, from you borrowing too much money from them that you are not able to pay back all at once. So instead you make the interest only payments and they are able to sit on their high horse while you are drowning in debt at the bottom. So if you found any kind of value in this video, then don't forget to tap that like button for your boy, and also hit that subscribe button, as I like to make a lot of videos like this talking about debt, side hustles, and how to make passive income. As I always say, as a thank you for you watching all the way into the end of this video, if you go down into the description and sign up to the public app, they will give you a free stock as a courtesy from me to you just for you signing up. You don't have to deposit any money, just sign up and create an account and you will get a free stock valued anywhere from $300 to $300. And I hope that some of the tips in this video was able to help you reevaluate your own financial situation to see if credit cards were really the right thing that should be in your financial diet. However, with all that being said, I'll see you in the next one, guys.